So many different times in my life, I've played with broken or hurt things, broken foot, broken leg, broken hand, broken arm, broken sternum, broken collarbone. I could keep going if I just thought more about bones. Why, man? Because I loved it. I loved playing the game. I was passionate about it. One of the reasons I even get encouraged at seeing all of you here. Do you know why I get encouraged by that? Is because you could be anywhere doing a lot of different things, but you chose to be here.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would two men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses altruistically invest 5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use? Because they believe in you. And they have a lot of time on their hands. They started from the bottom, now they're here. It's the Thrivetime show starring the former U.S. Small Business Administration's Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark, and the entrepreneur trapped inside an optometrist's body, Dr. Robert Zuttner. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women. 13 multi-million-dollar businesses.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
Mr. Clyde started from the bottom, and now we're at the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks. I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Now we here.
Jack, I appreciate you letting me talk to you today and about this fabulous topic, one that gets me excited. It is find a need and fill it. I want to ask you though, how are things going here in Santa Barbara? Do you ever get bored with the weather being perfect every day?
I never get bored with it, and every so often it really turns out imperfect. So it breaks the cycle. But having perfect weather, waking up in a beautiful home, listening to gorgeous music, never bores me.
Okay, all right. Well, the offer continues to be open. My wife and I, if you want to come to Tulsa and hang out, the weather's bad about 70% of the time, and it's hot in the summer and it's really cold in the winter. It's humid a lot. It's a lot of bugs.
You're doing a good selling job. I've been there. The
tourism capital of the world, actually, is what Tulsa is. But all right, well, today we're talking about, again, how to find a need and fill it. And I want to start off with this quote from The Millionaire Next Door. It's a book about, they kind of interview millionaires all around the world. And it says, self-employed people make up less than 20% of the workers in America, but account for 2/3 of millionaires. It seems like kind of basically people know that, but they sort of are afraid of getting in the game. Walk me through what you mean when you say find a need and fill it. What does that mean in a big overview there?
I think it's something that will serve you your entire life.
Okay.
I mean, if I sat down and I, before I wrote this book, The Evolution of an Entrepreneur, it was, what would I like to do? What's there a need out there for? And I felt that the business world was far behind itself, and there were not enough people trained. We needed more trained people to conduct the new business.
Okay.
So, starting, let's say, with me today, what is your need, Jack? The only thing I really would like to have is, I would like to have some means of passing on what I've learned to future generations. Let them choose what they want. I'm not saying they're all pearls, but let it be like a huge cafeteria and just pick what you want and leave the rest. Using the television, using Thrivers, using a means of getting to these people is a need. Is a need because there's so many people. I hear too many stories about, I personally help enough people that have not got enough funds coming in on a monthly basis to support their lifestyle. Now, they can drop a peg on the lifestyle, possibly, but they'd much rather stay in the lifestyle they got. So the need was to pass on the education and maybe get rid of some of the fuzz. When I say fuzz, one of the things I learned in combat was we used to carry extra silver foil, and a certain period of time before starting a bombing run, not worrying about our position, we would drop the foil out of the plane, just drop it out of the plane. And the foil was picked up on the radar sets as though it was another plane.
Oh, wow.
So we were 100 miles ahead of that, and they're shooting at us at the silver foil.
Oh, wow.
So this is a distraction. But we have in life so many distractions that takes us off the course of our own personal joy and happiness. I like the word joy better than anything else. Is that so? The question at the outset is, what is there that is missing, or what is there that you would like to have in your life? Then the finding the need and filling it is you see it all around you, and there are certain courses businesses are going to take. I can't predict them. I mean, I heard that was it Starbucks, a Tesla, I forget which. I just ordered a couple of thousand robots. Now, what happens to your discussion about minimum wage? What's the minimum wage for a robot? I think, and we know the solution really. The solution is that we should be selling higher price, better, more enjoyable merchandise of all kinds to do all kinds of jobs. So as I came out of the service and knew there were so many shortages because everything was in war production, that we could find items, products, processes, and provide them to a market that needed. And the thing is to throw the shackles off your own mind.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the need in your hometown. It can be the need 6,000 miles away.
I want to play the devil's advocate for a second.
Yes.
Because I think entrepreneurially. It's something I've learned to do, and I know that you do. But let's just say that somebody's watching this and they're saying, okay, I want to find a need and I want to fill it, but I just don't know what industry or what kind of business. Let's say my head is in the sand. It is in the sand. For whatever reason, I've worked at a job for 20 years and the job just disappeared. I mean, maybe I'm watching this and my job just disappeared. How do you begin to look for needs to fill? What advice would you have for someone who's struggling to figure out what needs to fill?
I would start with what I love.
Yeah.
Because that's the very first part of my own methodology.
Okay.
Is you got to pick something that you really enjoy doing.
Okay.
The lady who baked the pies is not making a fortune, but she now has 20 other women working for her, baking pies for the supermarket. and she loves to do it.
Yeah.
The lady that helped me move is still doing it, and loves to do it.
So maybe start making a list of things you love to do.
That I love to do,
Blank.
and then look within that scope and see what I can do that will make it happen.
I want to see if you endorse this method too. I've sat down with a lot of people. I mean, you know, whenever you go to a conference, and I'm a presenter at a conference, people will come up and ask me, you know, this question a lot. How do I know what kind of business to get into? I always tell them too to make a list of problems that you see around you, you know, problems that people have. Because just as an example, one gentleman I was helping, he said, I don't know what to do. And I said, okay, well, just make a list of all the problems you see in just your neighborhood. Well, he comes back and he talks about how there's these high-end homes that were near him and how he pretty much was sure that everyone who owned those homes didn't want to clean their home. And I said, well, there you go. That's something. And he's, you know, but would you recommend you make a list of problems that you see around you too?
I think it's one method.
Okay.
I think it's an excellent method. I also think that a lot of things hit you in the face every day, that if you just keep your eyes open, I suggest very strongly, for example, that you read the daily paper. And particularly that you read the business section, because it gives you a clue as to what is happening.
Yeah.
Like, who was it? Google bought T-Mobile
Yeah.
and sold it 2 or 3 years later for several $1 billion less.
Well, Jack, give me an example of the kind of things you could pick up from reading the local business paper or reading a business paper, Wall Street Journal. What kind of stories can we find in there?
Well, I just read that a couple of years ago, Google bought Motorola, and they sold it a couple of years later at a huge loss. And it wasn't I don't think it was that Motorola underperformed. It was that Google, in their corporate strategy, decided they want to be in the software business, and they don't want to be in the hardware business. All of this that's going on now between Comcast and Time Warner and DirecTV and all the other purveyors of information shows a trend line that something is going in a direction. So you want to know what direction that's going in and what you can do to put something you like,
Right.
and some merchandise or process. It doesn't have to be merchandise, it could be a service.
Yep.
As you said, someone said all those offices need to be
Yeah.
cleaned every day. So just doing the service is fine. So that it is all around you if you just open your eyes. And it's not a question of how can I find something, it's how can I pick something from this huge list of...
So the home run, though, is if I make a list of problems and I make a list of things I love, if I can find the intersection of what I love to do and what people need, boom.
Bingo.
Bingo. That's the... Now, okay, so here we go. Ray Kroc, this guy, obviously you know, but he was the founder of the McDonald's franchise system.
Sure.
The McDonald's brothers previously were making burgers, but he took it over, franchises this thing. He says, if you're not a risk taker, you should get the hell out of business. Check. Once you determine a business niche or a need, how big of a risk taker do you actually have to be in order to become a successful entrepreneur? I mean, how big of a risk taker do you have to be?
I can't quantify that.
Okay.
Different strokes for different folks, different
This much?
people. It depends on what's your comfort zone. What do you live in? How do you go about? You can. One thing you can do,
Yeah.
if you think the risk is too big, is to try to minimize that risk. And one of the ways you can do it is by actually running a test sample of what you want to do. For example, if you're in a business now that is very needed and very desirable, but it takes heavy-duty financing, the question is there a business similar or in that vein where you can test?
Yeah.
I used to be, one of the businesses was direct marketing or direct mail, it was called. And we never sent out a huge mailing of anything until we tested it.
So you can kind of minimize your risk a little bit.
So if I have 1,000,000 pieces I want to mail out, I may test with 50,000.
Okay.
And I'll pull up percentages and say, hey, yeah, this works.
I want to just throw out this question for you, because I feel like there's people watching here, and I just want you to be just a truth cannon. Just let it fly here. I'm gonna ask you these 4 different scenarios, because this is what I see a lot. Okay, so here's scenario 1. One guy, he's spending, let's say, $500 or $600 a month on a car payment, and he wants to go into, let's say, the cleaning business. And he goes, well, I don't know if I could wait. I mean, if I spend $600 a month on mailers and they don't work, I don't know if I can handle that kind of rejection. And I might say to the guy, well, you're spending $600 on your car. Maybe you should sell the car, get a crappy car, and do more mailers. Would you agree that you have to have at least enough of a risk tolerance to maybe sacrifice?
There is always a risk tolerance. There is always, no matter how much money you have, when some of these high-flying hedge fund people take maximum risk, put $1 billion into an unknown proposition.
Yeah,
that takes guts. I mean, there's a particular case of a company that's being examined. They say the company is structured like a giant Ponzi scheme.
Oh.
And they say, no, we're perfectly legitimate. So a guy like Ackman comes in and sells that stock $1 billion short. And then another guy comes in on the other side, like Carl Icahn, and he puts $1 billion into buying the stock. He thinks the company's going to last. They're both taking a risk.
Right.
And they're both sure of themselves.
Well, here's example number 2, I'm thinking, okay? You know, Sam Walton, obviously his career is very well documented in the book Made in America, which is an autobiography of his life. But at one point, he prided himself on owing more money to banks than anyone else in Arkansas. You know, he had every bank in town owing him money. Donald Trump is very similar too, where he'll borrow so much, he's so leveraged that Trump's idea is, well, the bank doesn't want to take back the running of a hotel, so I'm going to keep borrowing. And there's kind of that, I'd say on that scale, do people need to be that big of a risk taker to be successful in business?
Usually it would be proportionate to the amount of gain they're going to get out of it.
Okay.
The risk and the gain or the loss, I think, are proportionate to each other. I have a saying that says, for example, think global but start local.
Oh wow, so, that's a good nugget right there.
So I say, don't take those big. You don't have to take those big risks. Find out if it works. Find out if it works.
Think global, but start local. I might get a tattoo of that. I don't have any tattoos yet, but I might just get that. Now, the third group I see is people that are, it's kind of the whole time risk. As you know, a lot of times it's sweat equity, you know? So it's the teacher who's watching right now. Maybe she's a school teacher, and maybe she goes, you know, I want to open up a snow cone stand on the weekends. And, you know, and then the husband and her talk, and they kind of go, yeah, but what if I waste all that time? Do you have to be willing to risk time to be a successful entrepreneur?
Absolutely. You're risking everything. You're risking your money, you're risking your time, you're risking your reputation. How many people come away from a failed endeavor and say, boy, what a nut that was?
Yeah.
And who would ever think of doing something like that? That's a sure loser. But some of the sure losers, I've learned to ridicule nothing. I mean, I remember God, so many years ago, a guy came to me with a new idea. He was going to package a pet rock.
A pet rock?
A pet rock. He said, well, because you don't have to take it out, you don't have to clean it.
True.
You don't have to feed it, you don't have to do anything.
What?
But I'm told it's close to whatever you have it, it's fine. Perfect pet. Never make any noise, never mess up, never.
If you told me, we should convince my wife to buy pet rocks.
I laughed so hard, and he went out and made $1 million
On my face, in my face.
without a question. So who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to?
Man.
Another guy comes at me with an ant farm. We can put together the 2 pieces of lucite, in between it's sand. We have a bunch of ants. They're going to be doing, and people are going to watch them. Watch the ants work. You know, these are almost laughable.
Right.
Huge, huge, huge.
Now, let me ask you this here. What about the person who's watching this who says, I just can't handle any rejection. I totally can't do risk. Are you basically saying the world of entrepreneurship is not for you?
Yes.
Okay. Just go get a job, Ski.
I can't change. One thing I found out, and I really think this is a truism, I cannot change anybody.
Okay.
I cannot change you. I cannot change anybody. The only thing I can change, and the only thing I really have the power, is to change my attitude.
Mm.
In other words, if what you do irritates me, I can stop paying attention. I don't have to watch what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, it's just that you can't change people, and so many people frustrate themselves. I knew people that were partners for years, and they hated each other.
That's a weird deal.
I once took over a company in Portland, Oregon. Tell me, God, 2 guys sat on the adjoining desks.
No.
They hadn't spoken to each other for 30 years. True story.
That is awesome.
True story.
That needs to be made into a movie.
I don't even want to know what the problem was. I haven't got time for that.
Somebody stole someone's lunch out of the refrigerator and it all went bad.
Whatever.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, there's a quote here. The CEO of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, he said, risk more than others think is safe. Dream more than others think is practical. Now, Jack, in the case of both you and your brother Saul, is that right? Saul is your brother? Okay, Saul is your brother. You guys were both passionate business people, and you guys were both survivors of World War II, right?
We're both survivors of World War II, but it's a perfect example of what one must do. We started out together, but we're entirely different personalities.
Okay.
In many ways, particularly as far as he was more of a gambler.
Okay.
And he would bet you on anything. He would take a risk on, and he was good at it. Man made and lost 4 fortunes before he died young. But my point was that after a couple of years together, and the last argument, I sat down with him. I said, this can't go on, and life's too short. You're my brother. I love you, and I want you to be my brother, but I can't be partners with you.
In what ways did you guys take risks when you first started out in business that were bigger risks than, let's say, most people would take? Like, what's one example of a risk that you guys?
Well, when we came home from the war at the same time, and we went to our parents' home, and we decided we wanted to go into business together, and we decided, well, how are we going to do it? And we also didn't think New York, where we lived, was a place for it.
Okay.
And neither of us wanted to live in New York. So he went as the advance man.
Okay, he went first.
There's no point to both of us going, and I made a few bucks staying at home. But my point was that the risk was with your time, which is irrecoverable, and also to get into business where you have not been before. So we took that risk, and fortunately, the first deal we found was a winner. Was my story of the woolen material.
You guys moved to L.A. though from New York.
That's right.
So you just said, okay, we'll go there. I mean,
Right.
you didn't know anybody?
Nobody.
You didn't have email, you weren't emailing with people, there's
There
no
was
Facebook.
there was no email. There was no Facebook.
So you just,
Just
there we go.
Two different reasons. He was stationed at one time. It was interesting with us that my brother was a Marine at Pearl Harbor during the attack, and I was an airman, a navigator, on the road home just as the war ended. So we kind of bracketed the war, and he was a tough, gutsy guy, and brilliant, totally brilliant. But I said, we could build a business, and you can go off on a toot where you want to do something, and we have to start all over again, and I'm not ready to do that. I said, we just don't have the temperaments for it. So to be able to realize I couldn't change him,
Yep.
and by the same token, he couldn't change me. So we came to a friendly parting of the ways in business.
What were some of the biggest adversities? If you look back, you're going back now, you're 22, 23, going back to LA. You know, you're in LA, or you just finished World War II. You guys finished basically liberating the world. The biggest theater ever for war. You guys had risked your lives daily. You're in LA, you're 22, 23. What were some of the biggest adversities that you ran into early on when you were first starting your business?
I think my personal biggest adversity was getting over the war.
Okay.
I did have, I didn't escape totally. I had no wounds or anything that could be seen, but I was waking up with nightmares and going through all that bad stuff. So I'd say that was the biggest adversity. I had no other adversity. I was not disappointed in anything. I didn't expect something that didn't happen, and I didn't. He came out and started like plowing a whole new field, and he started with the export business, and we named the company Trans-Pacific Traders. And a couple of months later, I bought a used car and drove out to L.A., and this was my home too. So there were the two of us now. Neither of us had any money.
Well, you didn't, back then, you guys didn't call it post-traumatic. I mean, for anybody watching this who is a veteran, who can relate to this, they didn't give it a formal diagnosis, what you were dealing with, right? What did they call it, what you were dealing with? What was
I think the closest thing I come is battle fatigue.
Battle fatigue, which is an understatement, the biggest understatement of all time. But
battle fatigue.
so for somebody watching this who's served in the military, and they are maybe struggling with some of the issues that you were struggling with, what advice would you have for them?
Oh, that's really a tough one because so much depends on you as an individual and your psyche, and what you believe in and what you don't. I mean, people have found different roads to come back. Some have found it through religion. Some have found it through the business that they went into. Mm-hmm. Some have found it through the mates that they've met and married or had children together. This is all different. I was a bachelor. I had no, I felt I was old enough to have gone through a war. I was too young to be married.
Okay.
And my salvation is I enjoyed. I can't say I love. Sounds like I was addicted as I was. I enjoyed drinking.
Okay.
Very much. And I loved women. And they could provide all the play that I needed in there. And if it got mixed together, it was no big deal.
Oh, well, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to put that on a T-shirt or not. I don't know if I'm going to take that quote and put it on a T-shirt or not, but that's real talk. I know. I want to ask you this here. Jay-Z, you know, the hip-hop legend, the
Right.
entrepreneur, the business
Yeah,
guy,
right.
he says, I'm not afraid of dying. I am afraid of not trying. Jack, is that the sort of mentality that you and your brother had at this point? I mean, because you guys were no longer...
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I've never, after my first mission, I've never been afraid of dying. I'm afraid of having a poor quality of life. I'm afraid of not being able to do the things that I can do. But your lifestyle is built on everything not being certain. I'm not going to get that same paycheck at the end of every week. If you could find and could afford a well-qualified psychiatrist or psychologist who has experience and success, and I got to point that out particularly, who has experience and success at this, you can put yourself in his or her hands. But ultimately, you wind up, even if you're under their tutelage, you're working it out for yourself.
Now, I want to ask you this. You are in LA, and for those people who have not seen one of your trainings where you talk about this, you're in LA, and you and your brother, decide to go to the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
And they had a very active foreign trade
Right.
section there. What made you decide to go to the chamber? What was your idea?
Because our original idea was not find a need and fill it. Our original idea was get into the export-import business because we need trade. We need trade. So that was
That was your big idea.
That was the big idea. Whether it followed a different pattern after that, and I wound up in the sales promotion business, and he wound up in some kind of chemical business, is irrelevant.
Right.
But this is the way it started off, and one leads to the other. And as I said, my biggest talent, I can call it that, is as an opportunist.
You can't.
I see possibilities that I didn't see before.
There's kind of two nuggets in there. I mean, one is you can't steer a parked bus. If the bus is not moving, you know, you can't see new things and run into new things. But then in your case, if you're not an opportunity, if you don't have that opportunity, kind of that mindset to spot those opportunities, then you also, so you got to get moving and spot those opportunities.
Yeah, and what kind of condition was created? The fact of the export-import.
Yeah.
That led to domestic trading, had nothing to do with shipping to a foreign country. But we found that people were daunted by being in foreign trade. And it didn't daunt me at all.
Because you had been over there.
Well, not only that, but someone asked me a question in a class I once gave. He says, I'd love to be in foreign trade. I wouldn't have the foggiest idea of how to fill out an export declaration. And I said, well, I've been there for 60 years. I don't have the foggiest idea of how to fill out an export declaration either.
Well, you know,
that wasn't what I did. I was selling merchandise back and forth.
I think we
You
just
always find somebody to fill out.
I think we all put caps on ourselves. We all put lids on ourselves in some capacity. And it's very careful that as an entrepreneur, you become aware of those things. And if you're not getting into the business because you're afraid of the forms, or you're not aware of the forms, or you wouldn't have the foggiest idea, we can't get stuck. And there's this awesome kind of a excerpt from a Harvard Business Review article entitled "The 3 Networks You Need." And in this article, they say you need a strategic network because the forces that drive change in your field will probably come from outside your current world. That means you need some way to discern those forces when they first appear on or over the horizon, not when they arrive at your door. That's the purpose of your network. I mean, you guys were networking. When you guys were out there networking, meeting new people, what would you say to what would you say to the entrepreneur, the potential entrepreneur who's saying, I don't like networking, I don't go out much, I kind of stay right here?
Exactly what I said at the beginning.
Okay.
Start with something you love to do.
Okay.
Because when you do that, you're going to find a lot of other people who love the same things. If I love to travel and I'm traveling, I'm in a nest of people who love to travel. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on that plane or that boat.
How big of an impact has your network played in your career success?
I can't say. It's certainly it's played because I've been able to use them to both of our advantage. As an example, I made a deal once with Pierre Cardin, the great French designer. And I wanted him to design for us a line of writing instruments that looked a little bit different, but had a designer look to it. There were no designer pens there. I was wearing a pair of designer jeans, and I figured my pants were no different than anybody else's, but just having that on there, and which I did, and a wonderful story leading up to it, but when I went 6 months after I made the deal to sign the papers, 6 months after I started to sign the papers, I read it, which is a bad habit. I read what it said, and it said there should be no other name besides Pierre Cardin. I said, well, that's impossible because we only sell pens for advertising, so there's always a name. His name will be as the designer or the manufacturer or the name of the line, but there'll be another. Well, for example, the guy says to me, what kind, who do you? So I said, oh, Banque Nationale de Paris. He said, that's all right. I said, but it could be the local butcher. No, sir, monsieur, not possible. Not the local butcher with Pierre Cardin, not the local butcher. So I says, Mr. Cardin here. He was. We went to see him, and the licensing guy explained the whole thing to him in French, and the thing that I kept hearing was the butcher, the butcher, the butcher, you know. And Pierre Cardin looked at me and said, Monsieur Nadel, combien, how many pens you sell this way? I said, millions. He said, okay. That was the deal. That was the deal. But the story that I started with is we got to be very good friends. And at one point, he was doing some very big things. He needed extra cash. And I made a deal with him to actually buy the name for certain products. So I was in the licensing business, which I never in my entire life expected to be in. I was actually licensing and collecting licensing fees. That's the greatest business in the world because there's no cost to it.
Yeah.
You give them your name and they give you 10% or 5% or 2%, whatever the case may be. So there was a connection. The connection was made. Something happened 2 years later that I would never have predicted as part of this.
But you were in the game. I mean, you were in the room. You were in the game. You were in the deal. I mean, you weren't.
And I was able to make a lot of money with it. But just keeping your eyes open.
Yeah.
And saying, you know, every downstroke has an upstroke. Sure, there's a downstroke. They couldn't buy navy blue material for uniforms of the Chinese army. Kumantang, they called it. And finding the solution and selling it opened up all kinds of doors.
Well, just to set the stage for that, so people kind of get the background on that. You guys went to the Chamber of Commerce for LA, and they're publishing this weekly, bulletin
Right.
about inquiries of countries that need supplies, and you find out the Chinese are needing navy blue woolen material.
Correct.
And you and your brother, is this you and your brother at this time?
My brother and I.
And you guys are crazy enough to say, well, let's take all the olive green surplus material. And
Oh no, we didn't. We had to go around the world a couple of times
to get
How
it.
do we get it? Who's got it? Called the distributors, called jobbers, called merchandise people.
But you found a problem.
No such thing, because we had, there's no new. Well, wait a minute. Now we get something that says the Army is selling surplus Army olive drab. So what it did take was the kind of a mind
Yeah.
which put the two together and said, let's buy the olive drab, let's go to a chemical company, have them dye it navy, and let's sell it to the Chinese. It worked.
You have your antenna up. As an entrepreneur, you're looking
Always,
for
always,
needs.
always,
They're
always,
they're up
always.
there. You're looking for them. Once you find them, then you have to be solution orientated. Where you're not just stating problems. Now you have to look for
But
solutions.
first there has to be a problem.
Now, Jack, this is the part that really blows my mind, because in your book it says, with our feet to the fire, we needed to produce. In the course of the deal, we needed to figure out how to buy, how to sell, and how to finance the transaction. So you guys are figuring out how to buy, how to sell, how to finance. So many people keep going to school and reading books and hoping they get to know everything before they get started. You just had to hop in.
For us, it was so much fun. So
So much fun.
You find a non-traditional way of doing something that solves a problem that exists at the time. And several very large deals happened in just that manner.
So I just want to make sure we're getting this, and so the Thrivers can distill this. If you have an idea, because if you found a problem, if you found a need, and now you go, okay, I want to solve it, you don't even necessarily have to know how you're going to solve it. You just have to start by finding the need, and then you kind of start with the tools that you have. I think you have a quote you like to say is, use what you have to get what you want. You want to get, right?
Right. Sometimes it's a circuitous route to get to the solution. Or sometimes you'll start on it and start one way and it doesn't work, and you go another way until you find an open door. But somewhere along the way, this is not a tried, tested, true solution, but to me there's an answer to almost everything.
How long did it take for you and Saul to feel comfortable with selling? I mean, you found this deal at the chamber. I mean, how many other people go to the chamber? A lot. They all saw the same release you saw. They all saw the same problem you saw. You saw the need. You decided to fill it. But how long did it take you where you felt comfortable selling?
I think we were born that way.
Really?
Yeah. Never felt uncomfortable trying to sell something. And he certainly didn't. He was a master salesman.
For somebody out there who's afraid, because I've trained a lot of salespeople. I know you have too.
Let me. Yeah. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, sure, no.
This is a very interesting idea, because people sell in many different ways. And when someone asks me how you teach somebody to sell, somebody's reluctant. Someone hesitant someone has this grabbing of his heart before he goes in to meet somebody new is you do it.
You learn by doing.
Just by doing. How do I shoot that basket? Stand back there and fire. How do I hit the ball? Swing the bat.
Ready, fire, aim. You endorse this method.
Absolutely. You're going, even by accident,
Yeah.
you're going to find the way. And you find the key.
Can I ask if you endorse a little theory I have here? Because I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I feel like one thing that I do, and most of the I would say all the Thrive mentors we've interviewed so far, far do. They kind of look at the worst case scenario when they, sometimes they look at the best. They kind of look at the worst. And they sort of get comfortable, eyes wide open, knowing if everything goes to hell and it falls apart, this is the worst case scenario, and they kind of work against that, knowing that they're comfortable with the worst case scenario.
They can live with it.
Yeah, I mean, is that kind of how you get where you get to a point where you can deal with the worst case, and then now that you've got that solved, you can focus on solutions?
Oh, sure. A long time ago, I came up with the saying, which was to hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've taken the whole area under consideration.
See, that's the kind of mindset. That's what people ask me all the time with like my photography business or my entertainment business. How'd you do it? I said, well, my wife and I cut our cost of living so low that even if I was terrible, I could still eke it out. And then I sort of just went all in, and I do that all the time. And that's sort of the mindset. And so now you learned financing along the way. How long did it take you guys to figure out how to finance a business transaction?
Well, we were good in one way. We sometimes split those chores.
Okay.
Like there was that one need, and there are other needs that we had. I drew the financing.
Okay.
And the only way I know how to do it is to go to the expert. Always go to someone who knows what he's doing. I don't want a theorist to tell me how to do it. I mean, with all due respect. I want someone who's done it before, and I go to them. So I went to the head of the foreign trade department at the bank, at the Union Bank.
Okay.
And they had a very active foreign trade department because the bank makes money on it. That's the only reason they do it.
Right.
And he sort of took me under his wing.
If there's anybody...
I'd ask him questions about what the climate was like, not the business climate, what the financing was like. And particularly when I went to Switzerland, that was a whole other deal. It's like being in two different businesses.
Did you know this banker? How did you find this banker?
Never met him before in my life. Came in, introduced myself to him, told him who I was, what I was doing, that I had this deal, that I needed to finance it. I wanted him to tell me how to do it.
Now, the best-selling author, Robert Kiyosaki, he wrote that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And he says this quote, he says, I have mentioned before that financial intelligence is a synergy of accounting, investing, marketing, and law. Combine those four technical skills and making money is easier. You get all these tips from financial people and advisors, but at the end of the day, you're saying if you don't know something, sales, marketing, go to the expert. Just find someone who has proven results in that area, go to them and begin to ask them, right? That's your sort of
That's right. I'll make sure that's the area that they specialize in. I mean, I can go, doctors are specialists, but if I have one illness, I'll go to one doctor.
Yeah.
Another one, I want to go to someone who has treated a lot of other people.
And that's
with
the
the
real
same problem.
And that's the real value that we found on a Thrive 15.
Excuse me, that's what I like about your situation here. This is exactly what you're doing, and I totally admire it.
Jack, one of your notable quotables that you often say is you say, use what you have to get what you want. Now, we live in a country where you've got people that make products, people that deliver services. How does this apply for somebody who wants to get into the service industry?
Once again, you start with what you know, what you like. I married a lady who was in business before, but the way she got into business, she had been divorced, and she had 2 young girls to support, and she had no trade. She hadn't, been in that kind of area, but she is a remarkably well-organized person and a remarkable cook, baker, caterer, so to speak, and related well to people. So she went into the party planning business, and she has brought a lot of those skills that we are enjoying to this day to the lunch that we're going to have. That she plans all of this, and she made one terrific living as a party planner and did everything from home weddings to the Super Bowl.
And she ended up selling this business?
To big openings for movies, big premieres and stuff like that. And she wound up selling it to a public corporation. Of course, it was a number of years before we met and got married, but
but it's because that she decided to use what she had to get what she wanted.
Use what she had to get what she wanted. She knew what her skills were. She had complete confidence in them, and she was able to carry through and take it to another dimension and totally different direction. So it's once more, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about merchandise. I prefer merchandise because I buy this, I sell this, it's yours now.
You get that.
It's all over.
Yeah.
The service. What'd you say? You had indigestion after that party? This is nothing I want to contend with.
Okay.
But with her personality, she has this detail orientation, feeling for people, that she was able to do this. And she happened to be best friends with this bridge player, this bridge lady. Then it just worked for both of them.
But this principle applies whether you're into the service or or products.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You use what you have to get what you want, and just find that avenue, that market. The other thing is none of us are big enough or strong enough to create the market. That's why I say use what is to find the need. Someone is filling that. You want to fill that thing because that's open.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend. And I as we kind of wrap up this training on find a need and fill it, one thing I cannot stress enough is I encourage everybody to check out your book, The Evolution of an Entrepreneur.
I back that.
I mean that though, because so many books have interesting structures, but yours is probably the most interesting. It's the most interesting way I've ever seen a book being structured, and it literally gives the entrepreneur some stories, some examples, and then 50 tips, not 42 or 45, but 50 tips there. And I just want to tell you, thank you for writing this book. Thank you for leaving this legacy and teaching us and giving back and mentoring us. And finally, I know you know this, but thank you for serving in the military and in World War II and keeping this country free. It means the world to me, and I know countless people all over the world. So again, just want to say thank you.
Well, and I want to thank you for moving my ambition forward, which is to get the word out exactly as you're doing it.
Thank you.
JT, do you know what time it is?
4:10.
It's Tebow time in Tulsa, Jerusalem, baby. Tim Tebow is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Whoa. During the month of Christmas, December 5th and 6th, 2024, Tim Tebow is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the 2-day interactive Thrivetime Show Business Growth Workshop. Yes, folks, put it in your calendar. This December, the month of Christmas, December 5th and 6th, Tim Tebow is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business growth workshop. Whoa. We've been doing business conferences here since 2005. I've been hosting business conferences since 2005. What year were you born?
1995.
Dude, I've been hosting business conferences since you were 10 years old. And a lot of people, have followed Tim Tebow's football career on the field and off the field. And off the field, the guy's been just as successful as he has been on the field. Now, the big question is, JT, how does he do it?
Well, they're going to have to come and find out because I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, Tim Tebow's going to teach us how he organizes his day, how he organizes his life, how he's proactive with his faith, his family, his finances. He's going to walk us through his mindset that he brings into the gym, into business. It is going to be a blasty blast in Tulsa, Jerusalem. Folks, I'm telling you, if you want to learn branding, you want to learn marketing, you want to learn search engine optimization, you want to learn social media marketing, that's what we teach at the Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive workshop. If you want to learn accounting, you want to learn sales systems, you want to learn how to build a linear workflow, you want to learn how to franchise your business, that is what we teach at the 2-day interactive Thrivetime Show business workshop. Over the years, we've had the opportunity to feature Michael Levine, the PR consultant of choice for Nike, for Prince, for Michael Jackson. We've had the top PR consultant in the history of the planet has spoken at the Thrivetime Show workshops. We've had Jill Donovan, the founder of RusticCuff.com, a company that creates apparel worn by celebrities all throughout the world. Jill Donovan, the founder of RusticCuff.com, has spoken at the 2-day interactive Thrivetime Show business workshops. We have the man who's responsible for turning around Harley Davidson, a man by the name of Ken Schmidt. He has spoken at the Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshops. Folks, I'm telling you, these events are going to teach you what you need to know to start and grow a successful business. And the way we price the events, the way we do these events, is you can pay $250 for a ticket or whatever price that you can afford. What? Yes, we've designed these events to be affordable for you, and we want to see you live and in person at the 2-day interactive December 5th and 6th Thrivetime Show Business Workshop. Everything that you need to succeed will be taught at the 2-day interactive Thrivetime Show Business Workshop, December 5th and 6th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the way we do these events is we teach for 30 minutes, and then we open it up for a question and answer session so that wonderful people like you can have your questions answered. Yes, we teach for 30 minutes, and then we open it up for a 15-minute question and answer session. It's interactive. It's 2 days. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've been doing these events since 2005, and I'm telling you, folks, it's going to blow your mind. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshop is America's highest rated and most reviewed business workshop. See the thousands of video testimonials from real people just like you who've been able to build multi-million-dollar companies. Watch those testimonials today at thrivetimeshow.com. Simply by clicking on the testimonials button right there at thrivetimeshow.com, you're going to see thousands of people just like you who've been able to go from just surviving to thriving. Whoa. Each and every day, we're going to add more and more speakers to this all-star lineup, but I encourage everybody out there today, get those tickets today. Go to thrivetimeshow.com. Again, that's thrivetimeshow.com. And some people might be saying, well, how do I do it? What do I do? How does it work? You just go to thrivetimeshow.com. Let's go there now. We're feeling the flow. We're going to thrivetimeshow.com. Again, you just go to thrivetimeshow.com. You click on the business conferences button, and you click on the request tickets button right there. The way I do our conferences is we tell people it's $250 to get a ticket.
Yep.
Or whatever price that you can afford. And the reason why I do that is I grew up without money. JT, you're in the process of building a super successful company. Did you start out with $1 million in the bank account?
No, I did not. Nope, did not get any loans, nothing like that. Did not get an inheritance from parents or anything like that. I had to work for it, and I'm super grateful. I came to a business conference. That's actually how I met you, met Peter Taunton. I met all these people.
So if you're out there today and you want to come to our workshop, again, you just got to go to thrivetimeshow.com. You might say, well, who's speaking? We already covered that. You might say, where's it going to be? It's going to be in Tulsa, Jerusalem, Oklahoma. And someone says, Tulsa, Jerusalem. I'm really trying to rebrand Tulsa as Tulsa, Jerusalem, sort of like the Jerusalem of America. But if you type in Thrivetime Show and Jinx, you can get a sneak peek or a look at our office facility. This is what it looks like. This is where you're headed. It's going to be a blasty blast. You can look inside, see the facility. We're going to have hundreds of entrepreneurs here. It is going to be packed. Now, for this particular event, folks, the seating is always limited because my facility isn't a limitless convention center. You're coming to my actual home office, and so it's going to be packed. Who? You're going to come. Who? You? I'm talking to you. You can just get your tickets right now at thrivetimeshow.com. And again, You can name your price. We tell people it's $250 or whatever price you can afford. And we do have some select VIP tickets, which gives you an access to meet some of the speakers and those sorts of things. And those tickets are $500. It's a 2-day interactive business workshop, over 20 hours of business training. We're going to give you a copy of my newest book, The Millionaire's Guide to Becoming Sustainably Rich. You're going to leave with a workbook. You're going to leave with everything you need to know to start and grow a super successful company. It's practical, it's actionable, and it's Tebow time right here in Tulsa, Jerusalem. Get those tickets today at thrivetimeshow.com. Again, that's thrivetimeshow.com.
Hello, I'm Michael Levine, and I'm talking to you right now from the center of Hollywood, California, where I have represented over the last 35 years 58 Academy Award winners, 34 Grammy Award winners, 43 New York Times bestsellers. I've represented a lot of major stars, and I've worked with a lot of major companies. And I think I've learned a few things about what makes them work and what makes them not work. Now, why would a man living in Hollywood, California, in the beautiful sunny weather of LA, come to Tulsa? Because last year I did it, and it was damn exciting. Clay Clark has put together an exceptional presentation, really life-changing, and I'm looking forward to seeing you then. I'm Michael Levine. I'll see you in Tulsa.
Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshops are the world's highest rated and most reviewed business workshops because we teach you what you need to know to grow.
You can learn the proven 13-point business systems that Dr. Zellner and I have used over and over to start and grow successful companies. I mean, we get into the specific steps on what you need to do to optimize your website. We're going to teach you how to fix your conversion rate. We're going to teach you how to do a social media marketing campaign that works. How do you raise capital? How do you get a small business loan? We teach you everything you need to know here during a 2-day, 15-hour workshop. It's all here for you. You work every day in your business, but for 2 days you can escape and work on your business and build these proven systems so now you can have a successful company that will produce both the time freedom and the financial freedom that you deserve. You're going to leave energized, motivated, but you're also going to leave empowered. The reason why I've built these workshops is because as an entrepreneur, I always wish that I had this. And because there wasn't anything like this, I would go to these motivational seminars, no money down, real estate, Ponzi scheme, get motivated seminars, and they would never teach me anything. It was like you went there and you paid for the big chocolate Easter bunny, but inside of it, it was a hollow nothingness. And I wanted the knowledge, and they're like, oh, but we'll teach you the knowledge after our next workshop. And the great thing is we have nothing to upsell. At every workshop, we teach you what you need to know. There's no one in the back of the room trying to sell you some next big get-rich-quick, walk-on-hot coals product. It's literally, we teach you the brass tacks, the specific stuff that you need to know to learn how to start and grow a business. And I encourage you to not believe what I'm saying, and I want you to Google the Z66 auto auction. I want you to Google elephant in the room. Look at Robert Zellner and Associates. Look them up and say, are they successful because they're geniuses, or are they successful because they have a proven system? When you do that research, you will discover that the same systems that we use in our own business can be used in your business. Come to Tulsa, book a ticket, and I guarantee you it's going to be the best business workshop ever, and we'll even give you your money back if you don't love it. We've built this facility for you, and we're excited to see you.
And now you may be thinking, what does it actually cost to attend an in-person 2-day interactive Thrivetime Show business workshop? Well, good news. The tickets are $250 or whatever price that you can afford. What? Yes, they're $250 or whatever price you can afford. I grew up without money, and I know what it's like to live without money. So if you're out there today and you want to attend our in-person 2-day interactive business workshop, all you got to do is go to thrivetimeshow.com to request those tickets. And if you can't afford $250, we have scholarship pricing available to make it affordable for you.
I learned at the Academy, Kings Point in New York. Acta non verba. Watch what a person does, not what they say.
Whoa. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. Today I'm broadcasting from Phoenix, Arizona, not Scottsdale, Arizona. They're close, but they're completely different worlds. And we have a special guest today. Definition of intelligence is if you agree with me, you're intelligent. And so this gentleman is very intelligent. I've done his show before also. but very seldom do you find somebody who lines up on all counts. And it's a Mr. Clay Clark. He's a friend of a good friend, Eric Trump. But we're also talking about money, bricks, and how screwed up the world can get in a few and a half hour. So Clay Clark is a very intelligent man, and there's so many ways we could take this thing. But I thought, since you and Eric are close, Trump, what were you saying about what Trump can't, what Donald, who's my age, and I can say or cannot say?
Well, I have to, first of all, I have to honor you, sir. I want to show you what I did to one of your books here. There's a guy by the name of Jeremy Thorne, who was my boss at the time. I was 19 years old, working at Faith Highway. I had a job at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. And he said, "Have you read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?" And I said, "No." And my father, may he rest in peace, he didn't know these financial principles. So I started reading all of your books and really devouring your books. And I went from being an employee to self-employed, to the business owner, to the investor. And I owe a lot of that to you. And I just wanted to take a moment to tell you, thank you so much for allowing me to achieve success. And then I'll tell you all about Eric Trump. But I just want to tell you, thank you, sir, for changing my life.
But not only that, Clay, thank you, but you become an influencer. More than anything else, you've evolved into an influencer where your word has more and more power. So that's why I congratulate you on becoming. Because as you know, there's a lot of fake influencers out there, too, or bad influencers.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm glad you and I agree so much, and thanks for reading my books.
Yeah.
That's the greatest thrill for me today. Not a thrill, but recognition is when people, young men especially, come up and say, "I read your book, changed my life. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this."
I learned at the academy, Kings Point in New York, acta non verba. Watch what a person does, not what they say. Whoa.